Here we go, and I honestly can't believe I'm giving my secret ingredient out in this pie crust. Why not? I'd rather have you all be able to make amazing pie crust. Why keep it to myself? I can't make pies for all of you. Let's get started. We want 2.5 cups of white flour, just all-purpose flour. That's 2. And a half. We need a half table of just regular old table salt. A half teaspoon. All right, now we need 3/4 of a cup of Crisco, shortening, lard, or butter. Today I'm using butter just because I want a nice buttery crust. You can use any of the above mentioned, whatever suits your fancy. 3/4 of a cup, make sure it's cold. I'm going to cut this butter up into small pieces to make it easier to work with. You don't have to be fancy, they don't have to be any particular size. Just know that you are going to be breaking them up, so the smaller you make them now, the easier it is when you have to get in here with your hands and mix things up. Next, you want to just get in there with your hands and you're just crumbling it up. You want to incorporate those little butter chunks into the flour, and you want to have it looking kind of like what cornmeal would look like. It's just going to look a little grainy. You want to work quick. You don't want the butter to melt. That's why you want it cold to start with. All of the little chunks of butter are going to make little buttery air pockets in your crust. You're squishing. You could totally use a pastry cutter if you had one. You can also use a couple of knives. I myself find that your hands work as the best kitchen tools ever created. right, here goes. Here goes, world. This is a secret. You want to take frozen orange juice and add about a half a cup and a half a cup of very cold water. Stir it around. To your mixture of flour, salt, and fat, you want to add 6 to 7 to 8 tablespoons of this mixture. We're going to start with 6 and see what it looks like. I can already tell you it's not enough. We're going to do 7, 8, 9. And again, get in there with your hands. How much liquid you add is purely going to depend on the flour that you're using and how it absorbs. 9 tablespoons is not even going to be enough this time. Let's see what it takes. We're going to go 10, 11, 12. We're going to try 12. And see, I'm just kind of gently stirring it with my hands. The less you can touch it, the better. What was I on? 12? I'm going to add 13, 14, 15. I've been making pie crust long enough that I can kind of gauge what we're going to need by sight. $16, 17, 18. You kind of want this coming together like you would a ball of Play-Doh. That's kind of what you're looking for, only not as sticky. All right. See how this, we're kind of just moving it around and it's starting to kind of ball up and stick together? This is what we want. So what was that, 16? I'll have to recount. All right, at this point, we're going to get it in a big all right, that is one pie crust recipe. This is a top and bottom crust. So if I'm crust, this would make 2. All right, we want to stop touching it. I'm going to get some saran wrap. Flatten it out a little bit. Wrap it up. All right. We are going to pop that in the fridge so it gets nice and cold. Let's get the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Stir bowl or stir hand, whatever is easier. All right, we need 2 more. 17 and 18. Again, you want to move fast so you're not spending too much time melting butter or fat. See, on this one, you need a little more. 19, we're just going to put the rest in there. So this particular mixture took 20, and it was the same exact ratio. Again, just gonna give it that. Yes, we're gonna. Again, wrap it up tight. Our pie crust has been in the refrigerator for probably 3 hours at this point. It's a good time to take it out and get our pie crust ready to make our dust pumpkin pie. Each one of these pie crusts that we made earlier is actually for a bottom and a top crust. I only need bottom crust for the pies that I'm using, so we are going to have enough for 4 pies, which is exactly what I need. When making a pie crust, you want to make sure that your surface that you're going to roll your pie crust on is floured well along with your rolling pin. For this pie crust, we'll take our saran wrap off and we're going to cut it in half or break it in half. I'm just Alright, we have roughly half of the dough. I'm going to form it into a circle quickly. Again, we don't want to work it too much, so I'm just going to form it into a circle. Put it on the counter, make sure flour is on our rolling pin, sprinkle a little bit on the top of the pie crust, and start rolling. Roll a few that way, spin your pie crust. Roll a few that way, spin your pie crust. You want to be making this into a circle using all of the skills that you learned in kindergarten. And flip it over. Keep rolling until you have a nice circle about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch thick. All right, let's take our pie plate, and you can kind of get an idea if you've rolled it out enough by putting your pie plate on top. Is there a couple of inches all around? For the most part, yes. So if there's a couple of inches, you're probably very close. I'm going to roll just a little thinner because I want to make sure. There, I think we're good. Now, you want to take your pie pan, and it doesn't matter if you're using a nice glass one, a metal one, a real one that you're going to save, or if you're using a disposable one. Either way, you want to take a little bit of flour and just sprinkle it in the bottom of the pie pan. This will help so that the crust will not stick to the bottom while it's being cooked. Next, you want to take your pie crust and fold it in half. Set your pie plate on the counter. Put your crust in, covering half of the pan, right? Then open it. And gently just go around and make sure that the pie crust is set down inside the pie pan. That was easy, wasn't it? To get your pie crust fitting well, you want to trim around the edges. You can use a knife, or scissors. I like to use scissors. I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches hanging off the edge because we're going to use that to make the rim or the pie crust. So just go around. You don't have to be fancy. A little more, a little less, it's not going to hurt anything. So you can see it's not perfect, it's not even, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to continue this process with the remaining 4 pie pans that I have. Then I'll pop back on and show you how to make the edge on the crust. To make the crust, you want to make sure that you have a glass of cold water handy. You want to dip your fingers in the cold water and just go around the rim of the pie crust, right where the rim of the pan is. This water is going to act like glue. All right. Now we want to take the pie crust and we want to fold in the edges. We're going to fold the edges towards the center of the pie pan. Just work your way around. See, we've got the edges folded in. It doesn't look like anything pretty right now. Now comes the creative part. You can use a fork and dip it in the flour and just push all around your crust. Or if you want to be a little more fancy, take your 2 knuckles and 1 knuckle. 2 knuckles, 1 knuckle. Dip your 2 knuckles in flour. Dip your 1 knuckle in flour. Then you're going to put your 2 knuckles on the outside of the crust and your 1 knuckle on the inside. Keep dipping in flour. Spin your pie plate. If your knuckles stick, that means you need more flour. See? Just a very basic, beautiful crimped pie crust. Let's bring you in a little closer so you can see better. All right, again, nothing fancy. Then dip your knuckles, 2 knuckles, 1 knuckle.